Hi, my name is Jessie, and my American author was Mark Twain. Mark Twain was actually born Samuel Clemens on November 30th, 1835 in Florida, Mississippi, and growing up he never had a high education. He just earned his living from print shops and newspaper offices where he worked as apprentices. He was in the Confederate Army for 2 weeks until he resigned to leave to Nevada with his brother, and he fell back on journalism to make a living. And since he started writing for the Carpetbag in Virginia City, he started working with pseudonyms. Some include Thomas Jefferson Snodgrass, Sergeant Fathom, and Josh. And then in 1863, he came up with the nom de plume Mark Twain, and ever since then, he was committed to a life of humor of writing. Some of his major works include The Adventures of Tom Sawyer, The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn, A Connecticut Yankee in King Arthur's Court, and The Prince and the Pauper. Mark Twain once said, "To succeed in life, you need two things, ignorance and confidence." Mark Twain was the first to call the Gilded Age in a book with Charles Warner. It was the post-Civil War era that he primarily lived in. He criticized the corruption and greed of this era, and most of his writing was influenced not only by this era but by his upbringing in the Mississippi and the Civil War time era. Major historical events that were a repeating occurrence in Mark Twain books were the Civil War, slavery, and some Gilded Age economy references such as railroads, telephones, and millionaires. Mark Twain was a heavy influence on generations of American authors for his universal satire and humor. Professor Loving even stated that Twain's style had a profound impact. Whitman brought in the vernacular poetry, and Twain did it for the prose. The American language is kind of freed up by our literature, by Whitman and by Twain. We no longer look back on British approval as we did for so long. Ernest Hemingway said of Mark Twain in 1935, "All modern American literature comes from one book by Mark Twain called Huckleberry Finn. The chances Twain took, his adoptive persona, and his prose are important literary elements other writers can learn from. He was regarded as a great poet of the Mississippi," and James Cox once said, "Mark Twain remains as central as ever, not only in American literature, but in American life. This is because he satirized major world issues such as mistreatment of blacks, class relations, and class oppression. His books remain a required read in school even today," and Tom Quirk from the College of Arts and Sciences stated, "He profoundly shaped American literature, and his persona is somewhat of a mystery. This is because his personality was also very studied. Not only was he humorous, but he was very multifaceted. He was one of the first major authors to use new technology such as the typewriter. His works have been translated into 75 languages with 3,500 editions all over the world." Mark Twain was actually really good friends with Thomas Edison, and a quote that he once said was, "Reader, suppose you were an idiot, and suppose you were a member of Congress, but I repeat myself." And this just shows how his humor shone through his writing. Here are some of the sources that I used to gather my information. I hope you enjoyed learning about Mark Twain, and I hope you read one of his books very soon. Thank you!